Writing lyrics can be really hard, but what if I told you there's a really easy way to do it? And we're gonna look at some of the pros and how they do it, and we're gonna dissect what they're talking about. Let's talk about it. So where do you start? Do you start with a concept, or do you start with the lyrics, or do you start with music, or how do you start writing a song? You're probably asking that. Let's see what Ryan's H.E.R says about writing a song here in this video.
And it's time to really hone down and chip away at the lyric and concept. Sometimes I walk into a session and I already have a concept. I know this is the title, this is the concept, or I just experienced this in my life and I want to write about this. And very often that happens, especially when you're working with artists or country writers. There's the two times when concept might actually come before melody or lyric or anything else. A lot of country sessions, somebody walks in the room and says, hey, I got an idea, why don't we call the song this? Or an artist might say, I really want to write a song about this. For the purposes of these lessons, though, I'm not walking in with the concept. I intentionally tried to erase my brain and walk in with nothing, so you can see what happens when I start with nothing and where I end up. What you're going to see is me combing through the melody, trying to see if there are any words or phrases that my subconscious placed in there, because your subconscious is so powerful and so strong. And when you shut your brain off and you're just spitballing gibberish melodies with phonetics and syllables and vowels, your brain will fill in an occasional phrase or lyric or word or line. And very often, when you say, oh, that song is brilliant or genius, those are those genius moments.
So here's a really good gem that Ryan is dropping on us. Sometimes you do come into situations where you have an idea. Now, for people like me, and maybe for people like us, as music producers, that isn't the first thing that comes. And a lot of the times, for me, it doesn't actually work out that way. And for me, it's this second thing that he talks about, where you're coming in blank slate, and you just let the music kind of inform whatever's going to happen, and then you use your subconscious and whatever you've been filling in your daily life, or whatever you've been watching, or just what your subconscious is taking in. You kind of let that be the guide of what writes the song. And it's really cool because, so let's jump back into this.
Because you didn't really do it. I actually believe it's like God communicating through us. And some other people think it's the Great Spirit or other things. Whatever you think, whatever you believe in, it's magic. And when that happens, I've learned when to lean into it and when to lean away from it. There will be times when you come up with a phrase that's super catchy and fits the shape of the melody and the track, but it's really generic, and you need to shy away from those. You need to learn, as you write more and more, you'll learn when to listen to your subconscious and when your subconscious is trying to trick you. And delineating between those two things is the separating factor of a decent songwriter and a hit songwriter. You need to be your own editor.
Here's another really dope method called the chunk method by the Songwriters Chop Shop, which is a really great channel for learning songwriting and stuff. And check this out. He talks about this method of how to remember and how to write lyrics and how to actually approach the writing of lyrics. And check this out.
Be truly memorable, you might need to focus on something else entirely. If I asked you to remember this number, how would you do it? Well, most of us would break it up into chunks, because we can remember several small pieces of information way more easy than we can remember that same amount of information all at once. We can also use this same chunking idea when writing lyrics. Chunking as a songwriting technique works the same way. It splits larger concepts into smaller ideas that makes them easier to absorb and remember. And not just for the amount of words in our lyrics, but how our lyrics interact with the music and the melody. If you're like me, it can be easy to overwrite lyrics, especially if we're writing lyrics first or writing them without a melody.
Drummers overplay, guitar players overplay, singers oversing, and songwriters overwrite.
It's easy to think the more we explain something, the more clear we're making it, or the more poetic it is, the more it's going to stand out. But when it comes to lyric writing, ironically, the reverse is often true.
And you can go anywhere from, and the truth is, I miss you. That's what, listen, Pat Patterson and I both will tell you, that's great. You don't need to talk about, and the truth is, like a knight in shining armor on a white stallion running across the plains. You don't have to, but you could.
If you want to write a memorable lyric, the simplest solution is give people less to remember. But we can't just write less. We have to make every word count, because if we're using less, we have to find ways to make it do more.
How do you remember your phone number? How do you remember your best friend's phone number, if you do at all? Or how do you remember anything that is like a sequence of numbers? It's usually by breaking it up into chunks. It's a really great method to use. I use this actually subconsciously when I'm producing. I produce in chunks. I break a full song into different 8-bar loops, which actually allows me to write these songs and make sure that the sounds in each thing work. And this same technique works when you're writing lyrics. I don't think about the whole song as a whole. I think about it like, okay, let me write the most memorable hook, and then I will write another idea and stuff like that, and things that come after that. So writing these things in chunks is really important, and actually making, like he said here, making every single word count and matter is really important. Here's another really great tip for songwriting, and it is actually not the mumble track, but melodies and repetition from H.E.R. Check this out. This is also from Studio. Shout out to Studio for doing great content.
One tip for coming up with melodies, one thing I like to do is repeat whatever phrase that I'm singing, because then you'll really hear the potential of it. So if I come up with a line like da 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 da, I'm going to just keep kind of singing a variation of that and keep singing that melody to see if it could be a potential verse or a potential chorus.
Right, feel it out.
And you kind of have to pretend, like you already have your song in your head when singing that melody to kind of try it out. So for example, you sing something like da again. I'm falling outside, da again. I'm gonna keep singing it. Da da You can also play with the rhythm a little bit. Oh, love again. If you want to put a little variation on it, you know. You know.
Super great. This is like such an awesome tip here, like 2 tips in one actually. Just working with melody, working with repetition, but then also switching up the actual rhythm helps you come up with different ways to say things and actually will give you space for different kinds of words when you're writing your lyrics. Let's jump forward and see what she says about writing your verse and your pre-chorus.
If you want that space. I think the best verses kind of have space in between, and the pre-choruses then start to get a little bit more wordy. I think storyline-wise, just as far as my style as a songwriter, I tend to not give away too much in the verses and then really start explaining the story and getting more into the story and start to have a build. I think every song should have a build. Every song should kind of tell a story, if not a vibe of a story. And there should always be something that we're leading up to, some kind of anticipation. So melodically, to me, I think the verses should have a little bit more space, but it's not. Oh, it doesn't always have to be that way. I don't always do it that way. Another thing to think about is the dynamic of it.
So it's such a great thing to think about. Like, how, are you giving it all away right away? Don't give it all away right away. You don't have to when you're writing these lyrics. And think about simpler is better in your verses. So here's the working session of my track, Lay It Down. This was before I got it kind of like finished and just had a few lyrics and stuff like that in here. But listen to what I did for the verse, and then you'll hear how I applied some of this stuff. So did a mumble track here. And I had like a really clear idea for the chorus, and it's based on a Bible verse that says, come to me all you are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I don't remember the exact thing of it. Maybe I'll put it here, but it's a Bible verse that talks about like, you know, coming to Jesus so that you have like, and getting the rest that you need for your soul. And here's the actual finished version. Time to run it back, I'ma just let go. Do whatever it takes just to stay close. Take the money and the fame I'm paid for. Throw me in the fire just to show me what I'm made of. See how that's like not too far off? And now this is like lyrically saying like, you know, time to run it back. I'm about to just let go, right? I'm going to let go of things. Time to run it back. I'ma just let go. Do whatever it takes just to stay close. So like that's me. That's like just me just saying like, this is what I'm about to do. Take the money and I'm just saying like, I don't want money. I don't want fame. And the fame I'm paid for. Throw me in the fire just to show me what I'm made of. And like, you know, like just all of these things. And it's just like, yo, like this is me just bearing my soul. And it's kind of a prayer, right? And then the pre-chorus, look how the melody switches. So this is like da 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 da. And then the pre-chorus melody is more of a singing. Bum 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 bum. This time I lift my light up. So we have like different rhythms happening, different melody happening, and everything is pointing to opening up your heart, right? So and this is like an internal conversation right here. So now I'm talking internally, like this is what I'm talking about internally. I'm lifting my light up. I'm doing this, blah, 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 blah. And then the chorus is a response to that. Open up your heart, you're heavy laden. So like, you know, this is what God would be saying to us. Open up your heart. Heaven is waiting for you to just let it down. And to that. And then now, what about the second verse? I'm trying to do it a different way, right? So you can notice that I'm singing this time. I'm not rapping. So when my faith is failing, da 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 da. and then back into a chorus. Open up your heart. No pre-chorus for this one. Comes into another thing. These are all different tools to help you get out of your own head so that like you can write down the greatest melody, and then from that, what does the melody say? What is it trying to say? What is your subconscious trying to say? And it's super important to actually like just allow that flow to happen in that way, because then you'll end up finding like phrases and things that you weren't even thinking about, and then you'll end up saying like, oh snap, like that's actually a bar. So if you're trying to record lyrics and you're trying to write better lyrics, use these tips and techniques from the pros and from the things that I've showed you in my own track. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and check out these videos wherever they are that YouTube is recommending to you. Let me know if they nailed it. Peace.